The Galactic Health Monitoring Station orbited a neutral moon somewhere between boring and the middle of nowhere, which made it perfect for its purpose, making sure nobody brought any weird diseases into civilized space. Dr. Velix, a Kruvian with too many eyes and not enough patience, had been working there for 30 standard cycles without incident. 30 blissfully boring cycles of checking off boxes and confirming that yes, the Zentharis still had blue blood and no, the Morphids still couldn't catch the common cold because they didn't have respiratory systems. Then Captain Jake Morrison walked into the scanning bay, and everything went sideways. "Hey, Doc," Jake said, dropping into the medical chair like he owned it. "Let's make this quick. Got a supply run to the frontier belt, and you know how those guys get if you're late." Dr. Velix's middle eye twitched. It always twitched when humans showed up. They were walking biological paradoxes. Every single one of them. "Captain Morrison, please remain still while I access your previous medical records." The holographic display flickered to life, showing Jake's last checkup from 5 standard years ago. Dr. Velix began the routine scan, his equipment humming pleasantly until it started making a sound that medical equipment should never make. A confused, ascending whine that suggested the machine itself was having an existential crisis. "Is it supposed to do that?" Jake asked, not particularly concerned. "No," Dr. Velix said, all 4 of his hands dancing across the controls. "It most certainly is not supposed to do that." He pulled up the comparative analysis and felt his primary heart skip exactly 3 beats. "Captain Morrison, according to my scans, you have aged 7 standard years since your last examination." "Yeah, sounds about right. Your last examination was 5 standard years ago." Jake shrugged. "Been a rough couple of years. Doc, you know how it is." Dr. Velix did not, in fact, know how it was. In 30 cycles of medical practice, he had never encountered a species that could violate the fundamental laws of chronological progression. "Captain, this is extremely serious. You may have been exposed to a temporal anomaly. We need to run a full battery of tests immediately. You could be suffering from chronodisplacement syndrome, time dilation sickness, or worse, paradox poisoning. Or," Jake said, holding up one finger, "and hear me out here, I've just been really stressed." The silence that followed was the kind of silence that occurs when someone's entire understanding of reality takes a coffee break. "Stressed," Dr. Velix repeated flatly. "Yeah, you know. Deadlines, supply chain issues, that whole mess with the pirate blockade in Sector 7. Plus, I've been training the new crew members, and you know how that goes. Every time one of them does something stupid, I can feel my hair getting grayer." Jake ran a hand through his hair, which was indeed considerably grayer than it had been 5 years ago. "Actually lost a tooth last month. Stress grinding. Got an implant though, good as new." Dr. Velix pulled up the medical database with trembling hands, searching for any reference to this apparent condition. "Captain Morrison, stress is a psychological response to external stimuli. It does not, cannot, should not cause accelerated cellular aging. That would violate approximately 17 different biological principles." "Cool," Jake said. "Does it violate them before or after I age another year worrying about violating them?" "That's not how biology works, Doc. I'm afraid, Captain, not a scientist. All I know is that I looked in the mirror on my 40th birthday and thought, wow, I look 50. Then I checked my calendar and realized I had 3 impossible deadlines. A ship that needed repairs I couldn't afford, and a cargo hold full of live, Quellen eggs that would hatch and eat through the hull if I didn't deliver them in 72 hours. By the time that week was over, I looked 52. He paused. The eggs hatched anyway, lost my deposit. Dr. Velix was no longer listening. He was scrolling through medical records, his eyes widening with each file. Every human who passed through this station showed the same impossible pattern. Some aged faster than chronologically possible. Others somehow aged slower. One individual appeared to have aged backward after what her file described as a really good vacation. "This is impossible," Dr. Velix whispered. "This is all impossible." "First time dealing with humans?" Jake asked sympathetically. "No, I've processed hundreds of your species." How did I not notice this before? Probably because we don't make a big deal out of it. It's just something we do. Like taxes or rush hour traffic. Terrible, unavoidable, somehow our fault. Dr. Velix looked at the human in front of him, this creature that somehow aged through sheer force of anxiety, and made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his significantly longer life. I need to report this to the Galactic Health Council. That sounds like a lot of paperwork, Jake said. Paperwork stresses me out. I can feel my cells aging just thinking about it. Please stop doing that. Can't. It's what we do. Commander Kryn of the Galactic Military Corps did not believe in impossible things. She believed in weapons, threats, and the occasional tactical retreat when something had more weapons than you did. So when Dr. Velix called her to the health monitoring station, claiming that humans had somehow weaponized their own aging process, she arrived with a security detail and deep suspicions. "Show me!" she demanded, her carapace clicking as she moved. Kryn was a Throlaxian, which meant she looked like someone had crossbred a mantis with a battle tank and given it anger management issues. Dr. Velix pulled up his compiled data, hands shaken slightly. He had not slept in 2 days, which for a Krovian meant he was mildly concerned. I've reviewed the medical records of every human who has passed through this station in the last decade. The pattern is undeniable. The holoscreen filled with charts, graphs, and enough statistical anomalies to give a mathematician nightmares. Kryn leaned forward, her compound eyes processing the information at combat speed. This one, Dr. Velix said, highlighting a file. Barry Holloway, human accountant working for the Intergalactic Revenue Services. First scan. 35 years old. 8 standard years later. 47 years old. He aged 12 years in 8. What was he exposed to? Kryn asked immediately. Radiation, biological weapons, time manipulation technology. Tech season, Dr. Velix said miserably. According to his own testimony, he was exposed to tax season 4 times. He claims the 4th one almost killed him. Kryn's mandibles twitched. Explain tax season. I cannot. It appears to be some kind of annual financial ritual that causes massive psychological distress. The humans speak of it the way we speak of the Great Plague of Centauri 9 Isic contagious. Only 2 other accountants. Kryn moved to the next file. And this one. Nina Kowalski, human engineer. 31 years old on her first scan. 5 years later, she appeared to be 28. Dr. Velix pulled up the interview notes. She had just returned from what humans call a vacation. 2 weeks on a low-gravity beach planet with, and I quote, no deadlines, no emails, and enough rum to stun a Quellan. She aged backward. Apparently, that's not possible. I'm aware. Kryn stood up, her full 2.5 meters of armored height, making the medical bay feel suddenly cramped. Dr. Velix, I've fought in 17 campaigns across 9 systems. I've seen biological weapons that can liquefy your organs, nanoplugs that rewrite your DNA, and one particularly disturbing fungus that made you forget the concept of doors. But this? She gestured at the data. This is the most dangerous thing I've ever seen. Dangerous. Think about it. Humans can age faster or slower depending on environmental factors they barely understand. They can accelerate their own cellular degradation through sheer mental state. Do you know what that means? From a military perspective, Dr. Velix did not know what that meant from any perspective. He was a doctor, not a strategist. It means, Kryn continued, that humans have somehow turned their own mortality into a variable weapon system. They can burn through their own lifespan for short-term advantages. They're biological kamikaze units who don't even realize they're doing it. She began pacing, her claws clicking on the floor. We need more data. We need to observe them in their natural environment. Their natural environment is Earth, Dr. Velix said nervously. I've heard stories about Earth. Not their home environment. Their working environment. Where they're under stress, where they age. Kryn pulled up the station's traffic logs. What human vessels, are currently in the sector. Dr. Velik scrolled through the list, his stomach sinking as he read. There's a freight ship called the Debt Collector, captained by Rita Vasquez. According to their flight plan, they're running the Kepler circuit. What's the Kepler circuit? The most dangerous, deadline-intensive shipping route in known space. Pirates, spatial anomalies, and delivery windows measured in hours instead of days. It has a 40% ship loss rate. Crin's mandibles spread in what might have been a smile or a threat display. Perfect. Prep a shuttle. We're going to observe humans in their natural, stressful habitat. Commander, I'm a doctor, not a field researcher. Then consider this a medical emergency. Because if humans are doing this to themselves accidentally, we need to understand it. And if they're doing it on purpose. Crin checked her sidearm. We need to understand that even more. Dr. Velix gathered his medical scanner with trembling hands. He had a terrible feeling about this, which by human standards probably meant he was about to age 6 months in the next 3 days. He was not wrong. The debt collector looked exactly like a ship that had been held together by spite, duct tape, and prayers to deities who had long since stopped listening. Dr. Velix stepped aboard and immediately regretted every decision that had led him to this moment. "Welcome to the Rust Bucket," announced Captain Rita Vasquez, a woman who looked simultaneously 35 and 60, depending on the lighting and how recently she had slept. Based on the dark circles under her eyes, sleep was a fond memory from years past. Don't touch anything. Don't eat anything. And if you hear screaming, it's probably just the hydraulics. Probably. Commander Crin surveyed the cargo bay with professional interest. "Captain Vasquez, we're here to observe your crew during a standard supply run." "Standard," Rita repeated, laughing in a way that suggested she had forgotten what that word meant. "Sure. Standard. We're hauling medical supplies to Station Kep, which needs them yesterday, because they're having a plague outbreak. Then we're picking up a shipment of volatile coolant from the Outer Rim, which will explode if we're not there within a 6-hour window. After that, we've got a load of live Xanthari livestock that need to be delivered before they reach breeding maturity, because if they breed in the cargo hold, the babies will eat through the hull. Standard Tuesday." Dr. Velix checked his chronometer. "It's Friday. For you. Maybe. I lost track of what day it was, sometime last month. Time is a construct, and I am deconstructing it through sheer exhaustion." Rita grabbed a coffee mug that appeared to be growing something sentient in the bottom. "Now, you two can observe from the bridge, or stay down here with Jenkins is our cargo specialist. A man who looked 70 but was probably 40 appeared from behind a container. I age a year every time someone says the word deadline," he said flatly. "Please don't say it." "Too late," Rita said. "We have 7 deadlines this run." "Jenkins, did you just get grayer?" "Yes." "Outstanding." "Everyone to your stations. We're launching in 10. The next 48 hours would later be described by Dr. Vell as the most educational trauma of my life." The debt collector jumped to FTL with a sound that suggested the engines were held together by optimism and were running out fast. Rita piloted with the kind of manic energy that came from 3 consecutive days without sleep and enough coffee to fuel a small star. "Medical supplies to Kepler 9. For hours," she muttered, fingers flying across the controls. "But there's a pirate blockade in Sector 12. So we'll route through the asteroid field. Save 20 minutes. Only a 30% chance of catastrophic hull breach. Totally acceptable odds. Totally unacceptable odds. Commander Crin, you're not hauling plague medicine, Commander. Different risk assessment." Rita yanked the controls hard left as an asteroid the size of a building whistled past. "Besides, we'll sleep when we're dead, which at this rate is Tuesday." "You said today was Tuesday?" Dr. Velix said weakly. "Exactly." They made the first delivery with 11 minutes to spare, during which Rita aged approximately 6 months, based on Dr. Velix's continuous scanning. Her crew aged similarly, their cellular structures somehow accelerating in response to the psychological pressure of imminent failure. The second pickup was worse. The volatile coolant had to be loaded in exactly the right configuration, or it would destabilize and vaporize everything within a 100-kilometer radius. Rita's engineer, A man named Marcus, who claimed to be 32, but looked 40, worked with the steady hands of someone who had accepted death as a coworker. 5 minutes left on the stability window, Rita announced. Marcus, how are we looking? Nearly there, Captain. Just need to secure the last container, calibrate the cooling systems, and pray to at least 3 different gods. I'll take 2 gods, on some luck. We're on a budget. They secured the coolant with 90 seconds to spare. Marcus emerged from the cargo bay looking like he had aged another year. His hands were shaking. Coffee? Rita offered. I've had 9 cups today. So, yes. Dr. Velix watched in fascinated horror as the crew moved to the next crisis, then the next, each deadline shaving time off their theoretical lifespans. But more disturbing than the aging itself was their attitude about it. They did not panic. They did not despair. They simply kept going, fueled by caffeine and what Rita called toxic productivity. Captain Vasquez Crin said during a brief moment of relative calm, "Do you understand that you're killing yourselves? Your biology is degrading at an accelerated rate." Rita took a long drink of coffee that was probably 50% espresso and 50% war crimes. "Commander, I've been running freight for 12 years. I'm 38 years old and I look 50-something. I know exactly what I'm doing to myself." She smiled, and it was the smile of someone who had looked mortality in the face and decided it could wait. "But these supplies get delivered. Every time, because that's what we do. We don't quit when things get hard. We don't give up when the odds are bad. We just push through it, age faster, die younger, and deliver the damn packages." "That's insane," Dr. Velix whispered. "That's humanity," Rita corrected. "Now, buckle up. The Zenthari livestock just hit maturity and we've got 40 minutes to deliver them before they start eating my ship." They made the delivery with 3 minutes to spare. By the time the debt collector docked back at the station, Rita Vasquez looked like she had lived an extra year in 2 days. Her entire crew showed similar acceleration. Dr. Velix's medical scanner had enough data to fill 3 research, papers and fuel, at least 1 existential crisis. "Same time, next week?" Rita asked cheerfully as they disembarked. "You do this every week?" Dr. Velix asked. "Well, no, sometimes it's worse." She waved goodbye and headed back to her ship, already reviewing the next set of impossible deadlines. Commander Crin watched her go, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "Dr. Velix, we need to present this to the Galactic Science Council. Immediately. They'll never believe it. Then we'll bring evidence." Crin pulled out her communicator. "Captain Morrison. This is Commander Crin. We need you at the Galactic Science Council chambers in 3 days. Can you make it?" Jake's voice crackled over the comm. 3 days? That's a tight deadline. I can feel myself aging already. "Yeah, I'll be there." Dr. Velix began calculating how much older Jake would look by then. The math was depressing. The Galactic Science Council chambers were designed to be intimidating, with vaulted ceilings, holographic displays, and enough important-looking aliens to make anyone question their life choices. Dr. Velix stood at the podium, sweating from pores he did not technically have, while 300 of the galaxy's top scientists stared at him with varying expressions of skepticism and boredom. "Honorable Council members," he began, his voice cracking slightly. "I am here to present evidence of what I'm calling human chronological defiance syndrome, a condition that affects 100% of observed human subjects and violates several fundamental laws of biology. The lead counselor, a ancient Matherian named Counselor Torm, raised one crystalline appendage. Dr. Velix, we are very busy. Please tell me you have not called this emergency session to discuss a filing error in your medical records." "It's not a filing error. Humans age at variable rates depending on their psychological state. They can age faster or slower than chronologically possible through sheer force of stress, anxiety, and what they call being on deadline." The council chamber filled with the alien equivalent of skeptical murmuring. "I have data," Dr. Velix continued desperately, pulling up his charts. "Medical scans, chronological, tracking, cellular analysis. Humans are literally aging themselves through psychological pressure, and the most disturbing part is that they know they're redoing it, and they do uncare. Preposterous, declared Counselor Torm. Psychological state cannot affect cellular aging. That would suggest that mental processes can override genetic programming, which is impossible. The chamber doors opened and Captain Jake Morrison walked in, looking exactly 12 months older than he had 3 days ago. His hair was grayer. His face had new lines. He moved with the energy of someone who had slept for hours, total in the past 72, and was running on spite and coffee. "Sorry I'm late," Jake announced, completely unconcerned by the 300 sets of eyes now staring at him. Had a deadline, made it 2. Lost 3 years off my life expectancy. Gained a reputation for reliability. "Fair trade?" Dr. Velix pointed at him with a trembling hand. "You see, this is Captain Morrison. I scanned him 3 days ago. He has aged 1 standard year in 3 days." The council erupted in chaos. Several members demanded to see the data. Others called for immediate medical examination. One particularly excitable, Plovian, fainted, which for Plovians meant they temporarily became gaseous and had to be collected in a jar. "Captain Morrison," Counselor Torm said slowly, "is this true? Have you aged a year in 3 days?" "Yeah, probably," Jake said, grabbing a chair and sitting down backward on it, like he was in a very important version of a casual diner. "See, Doc Velix here asked me to be at this presentation, which meant I had to finish my current cargo run early, which meant pushing through a 72-hour delivery window that was supposed to take a week. Did it, though. Delivered 70 tons of construction materials to a mining colony in the frontier belt. They tipped me extra because I beat the deadline." He grinned. "Used the money to buy better coffee. Figured I'd need it." "You sacrificed a year of your life for a tip?" someone in the back row asked, horrified. "And the coffee. Don't forget the coffee." Dr. Velix took over, pulling up more charts. "This is not an isolated incident. All humans do this. I documented Captain Vasquez and her crew aging multiple years during a 48-hour stress period. I have records of an accountant named Barry Holloway, aging 12 years during tax season. The pattern is undeniable." "Okay, I gotta explain tax season," Jake interrupted. "So imagine you have to report every financial transaction you made all year to the government. But the forms are deliberately confusing. The rules change constantly. And if you make a mistake, you go to jail. Oh, and you have to pay the money you don't have. That's tax season. Barry handles taxes for 17 species across 9 systems. The man is a hero and looks 70 because of it. Why would your species design such a system?" Counselor Torm asked. "Buddy, if I knew that, I wouldn't have stress-aged my way through my 30s. But here we are." Dr. Velix pulled up another chart. The human stress response includes elevated cortisol, increased heart rate, and apparently accelerated telomere degradation. They are literally burning through their cellular lifespans. "Can I demonstrate?" Jake asked, standing up. "Demonstrate what?" Dr. Velix asked nervously. "The stress thing. Give me something stressful and you can watch it happen in real time." The council members looked at each other. Finally, Counselor Torm spoke. "Very well. Captain Morrison, you have 60 seconds to solve this quantum navigation equation." A holographic display appeared, filled with enough mathematical complexity to make a computer cry. Jake looked at it, looked at the timer, looked back at the equation. 60 seconds. That's impossible. Precisely. It's a test. No, I mean, that's impossible. So it's stressful, which means I'm aging faster, just looking at it. Jake rolled his shoulders. "Okay, let's do this." For the next 60 seconds, the council watched in real time as Jake's hair got visibly grayer at the temples. Dr. Velix's medical scanner confirmed that his cellular markers were accelerating. It was not dramatic, not enough to see massive changes, but the numbers did not lie. The human was stress-aging while attempting an impossible task. The timer ran out. Jake had not solved the equation, because it was designed to be unsolvable in under 10 minutes, but he had aged, measurably, from pure stress exposure. The council chamber was dead silent. "Okay," Jake said, sitting back down. "Who's got coffee?" "Primera, need coffee." All that aging made me tired. Counselor Torm spoke in a voice that suggested their entire understanding of biology had just taken a vacation. "Dr. Velix, what do you propose we do about this?" "That's why I called this session. Humans are destroying themselves, and they don't seem to care. We need to implement some kind of intervention. Mandatory stress reduction, enforced relaxation. Something." Jake raised his hand. "Can I speak to that?" "Please, we're not going to stop. You can't make us stop. It's literally how we function. You give us a deadline, we'll meet it. You give us an impossible task, we'll age ourselves trying to complete it. You tell us something can't be done, we'll kill ourselves proving you wrong. It's what we do. It's what makes us us." He stood up, addressing the council directly. "I appreciate the concern, I really do. But humans don't want to be saved from stress. We thrive on Italiano. We're not good in spite of it. We're good because of it." The council looked at him like he had just advocated for voluntary oxygen deprivation. "So, here's my question," Jake continued. "Are you going to help us understand this better? Or are you going to try to fix something that isn't broken? Because I gotta tell you, trying to stop humans from stress working is like trying to stop a star from burning. It's kind of our whole thing." Counselor Torm's crystalline form shifted colors. "Processing this information. This requires further study, extensive study. Dr. Velix, I'm authorizing a full research initiative. We need to understand this phenomenon completely." "I was afraid you'd say that," Dr. Velix muttered. "Captain Morrison, would you be willing to participate in a controlled experiment?" Jake grinned, and it was the grin of someone who knew this was going to age him considerably, but was going to do it anyway. "Doc, I thought you'd never ask." The Galactic Science Council did not do things halfway. Within 2 weeks, they had constructed a state-of-the-art research facility on a neutral station, staffed it with the galaxy's top biologists, and recruited for human test subjects who were promised hazard pay and unlimited coffee. The test subjects were Captain Jake Morrison, Accountant Barry Holloway, Engineer Nina Kowalski, and Captain Rita Vasquez. Looking at the 4 of them together was like looking at a timeline of stress incarnate. "Welcome to the Human Stress Observation Project," Dr. Velix announced, trying to project confidence he absolutely did not feel. "For the next 30 days, you will be living in a completely stress-free environment. No deadlines, no work pressures, no crises. We will monitor your aging patterns to see if removing stress causes cellular stabilization or even reversal." The 4 humans looked at each other, then at Dr. Velix, then back at each other. "You're joking," Rita said. "I am not." 30 days with nothing to do?" Barry asked. "No tax forms, no audits, no panicked clients screaming about fiscal years. Nothing. Pure relaxation." Nina raised her hand. "What if we want to work on something? Like, recreationally?" "No work. That's the point. We need to observe you in a completely stress-free state." Jake laughed, and it was not an encouraging laugh. "Doc, I appreciate the effort, but this is going to go sideways so fast." "Nonsense. The environment is carefully controlled. Everything you need is provided. Comfortable quarters, entertainment, excellent food. There is literally nothing to worry about." "That's what I'm worried about." Jake moved. The experiment began at 0800 station time. By 0900, Barry had requested tax forms just to look at. Not to do, just to look at. He was denied. By 1000, Nina had started reorganizing the furniture in the common area because the feng shui was stressing her out. By 1100, Rita had mapped the entire Station S layout and identified 17 safety hazards that she insisted needed immediate attention. By 1200, Jake had aged 2 weeks. "How?" Dr. Velux demanded, staring at his medical scanner. "How are you aging when there is nothing to stress about?" "I'm stressed about not being stressed," Jake explained, pacing the room. "I should be working right now. I have cargo runs to plan, clients to contact. My ship needs maintenance. Every second I'm sitting here doing nothing. I'm falling behind. And knowing I'm falling behind is stressing me out, which is making me age faster, which is stressing me out more. That's a paradox. Welcome to humanity. By day 3, the situation had deteriorated significantly. Barry had convinced one of the research assistants to let him do their taxes for fun. The assistant was from a species that didn't have taxes, so Barry invented some just to have something to calculate. He aged 6 months while optimizing deductions for a non-existent fiscal system. Nina had stress cleaned the entire facility twice. When asked why she was cleaning when there were maintenance robots for that, she explained that the robots were doing it wrong, and watching them work inefficiently was aging her faster than just doing it herself. She had somehow gotten younger during the cleaning process, suggesting that for engineers, stress-induced labor was actually Rita had started running emergency drills. Fictional emergencies. She had convinced half the research staff that they were critically important, mandatory, and several seconds away from catastrophic failure. She had aged 4 months, but insisted she felt more alive than ever. Dr. Velix watched his carefully controlled experiments spiral into chaos. This was supposed to be stress-free. This was supposed to be simple. You were supposed to relax. We don't know how to relax, Rita said, not looking up from her emergency drill schedule. Relaxation implies doing nothing. Doing nothing implies failure. Failure is unacceptable. Therefore, we create work to do. It's basic human logic. That's not logic. That's insanity. Potato. Potato. Commander Kryn arrived on day 7 to check on the experiment's progress. She found Dr. Velix sitting on the floor outside the observation chamber, staring at nothing. Status report, she demanded. They're winning. Winning what? I don't know. Everything. They've turned a stress-free environment into a stress maximum environment through sheer force of will. Barry has created an entire fictional economy and is now stress auditing it. Nina has rewired the station's environmental systems because they were 0.3% inefficient. Rita is running military-grade crisis drills for scenarios that cannot physically happen here. And Jake has aged 6 months in 7 days because he's stressed about not being stressed, which stresses him out more, creating a feedback loop of accelerated aging. Kryn peered through the observation window. Inside, Jake was pacing while talking to himself about imaginary cargo deadlines. Has he slept? 4 hours. Total. In 7 days, he claims, sleep is for people who don't have anxiety about relaxation. Dr. Velix, I believe we need to reconsider our hypothesis. Which one? The one about humans having a stress response, or the one about that stress response being controllable? Both. Kryn watched as Nina began reorganizing the furniture again, having decided her previous reorganization was suboptimal. They don't react to stress. They create Italiano. It's not a response, it's a requirement. That's impossible. We're watching it happen. Dr. Velix pulled himself up, dusted off his dignity, and made a decision. We're ending the experiment early. This isn't scientific research anymore. This is torture. For them and for me. They opened the observation chamber. The 4 humans looked up like prisoners seeing daylight for the first time. Experiment's over, Dr. Velix announced. You can go back to your normal lives. The relief on their faces was immediate and profound. Thank God, Barry said. I was running out of fictional economic systems to stress about. Do you know how hard it is to invent an economy from scratch? Very stressful. I aged 8 months doing it. There's a cargo run leaving in 2 hours, Jake said, already heading for the door. I can make it if I skip lunch and pilot at unsafe speeds. Perfect. I have 17 ships that need maintenance, Nina said. I'll get 2, maybe 3 of them. The other 14 will stress me out until I finish them. I can't wait. Rita was already gone, presumably back to the debt collector and another impossible schedule. Dr. Velix watched them go, then turned to Commander Kryn. I have a theory. I'm almost afraid to hear it. Humans don't age from stress, despite their biology. They age from stress as a feature. It's not a bug in their system. It's the system itself. They push harder when stressed, work faster under pressure, accomplish more when the odds are against them. And yes, they age faster doing it, but they accomplish things no other species would even attempt. Kryn's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. That's the most terrifying thing I've ever heard. I know. And it explains why humans are the galaxy's best emergency responders, crisis managers, and impossible deadline contractors. I know we can't fix this. I know. They stood in silence, watching the empty observation chamber, contemplating a species that had somehow turned self-destruction into an evolutionary advantage. I need a vacation, Dr. Velik said finally. Agreed. 6 months later, the Galactic Health Council had implemented the Human Wellness Protocol, a comprehensive initiative designed to promote human health through mandatory rest periods, stress reduction programs, and regular wellness checks. They had invested billions of credits into cosmic spa facilities, vacation planets with perfect weather, and therapy stations staffed with the galaxy's most empathetic counselors. The humans politely declined all of it. We appreciate the gesture, Jake Morrison said during the protocol's launch ceremony, looking exactly 8 months older than he should and completely unbothered by it. We really do. But mandatory relaxation kind of defeats the purpose of relaxation. The stress of being forced to not be stressed would just stress us out more. Counselor Torm's crystalline form shifted colors in what might have been frustration or acceptance, or possibly both. Captain Morrison, we are trying to help your species live longer, healthier lives, and we're trying to live lives worth living, which for us means working hard, meeting deadlines, and occasionally aging a decade in a bad fiscal quarter. It's our thing. Dr. Velix, who had been promoted to head of human studies despite his repeated requests to be demoted to anything else, stepped forward. Counselor, I've spent 6 months studying human psychology, biology, and what they call work ethic. I've come to understand something fundamental about their species. They don't want to be saved from themselves. They want to be understood. I'm not sure we can understand them. No one can. They barely understand themselves, but we can accept them. Dr. Velix pulled up his final report. Months of data compressed into one simple conclusion. Humans age faster under stress, not because they're broken, but because they're burning brighter. They sacrifice longevity for intensity. They choose a shorter life of accomplishment over a longer life of comfort. It's completely insane and absolutely deliberate. That doesn't make sense from an evolutionary perspective, a council member pointed out. It does if you consider that humans evolved on a death world where everything was trying to kill them, Dr. Velix explained. They didn't have time to age slowly and cautiously. They needed to reproduce fast, accomplish fast, survive fast. So their biology adapted to burn hot and fast when necessary. The stress response isn't a malfunction. It's a feature that let them survive long enough to become space-fearing. Jake nodded approvingly. See, Doc gets it. We're not trying to live forever. We're trying to live effectively. Big difference. But you're sacrificing years of your lives, Counselor Torm protested. Years you could spend with families, pursuing hobbies, enjoying peace. Counselor, with respect, we enjoy the work. Barry loves tax season, even though it ages him. Nina feels alive when she's fixing broken ships under impossible time pressure. Rita thrives on chaos. And me. Jake grinned. I've never felt more human than when I am racing a deadline with my life savings on the line, and a cargo hold full of something that'll kill me if I am late. That's not suffering. That's living. The council chamber fell silent. Centuries of scientific understanding, medical knowledge, and biological theory were being challenged by a species that had apparently decided mortality was negotiable and stress was a lifestyle choice. So what do you propose? Counselor Torm asked finally. We simply accept that humans will age themselves into early graves. Not early graves, Dr. Velix corrected. Different. Graves. Humans who die at 60 after 40 years of intense, meaningful work aren't dying young. They're dying accomplished. He left. Dr. Velix checked his data feeds 3 days later and saw that the Sector 19 colony had been resupplied with hours to spare. Captain Jake Morrison had made an impossible deadline. aged an estimated 9 months doing it, and was already en route to his next impossible task. Dr. Velix filed his final report. Humans sacrifice longevity for intensity, and the galaxy is richer for their choice. They are not broken. They are not malfunctioning. They are simply burning brighter than any species has the right to burn. And they're doing it deliberately, defiantly, and effectively. We should stop trying to fix them and start learning from them. Because when everything is on the line and time is running out, you don't call the species that lives carefully. You call the species that ages fast, works hard, and never, ever misses a deadline. You call humanity, and they show up every single time, gray hair and all. The report was filed, archived, and largely ignored, because the galaxy was having another crisis and needed humans immediately, which was fine. Because humans were already on the way, aging faster with every light year, and they wouldn't have it any other way.